sure what time it is.
Hello, good evening. Morgan. Well, anyway, good afternoon. So, we're back here to give, quick discussion on matters related to who killed the cops. And just let me know if you can hear me. But I hope so, I'm sure you can. So, to just get on, we would first look at it from the chronology of events and how there are twists and turns when it comes to the case as per what happened today in the court. Now, it is important that we all know that it's the government of the Gambia that said that, Hussein Obojang is a rebel. But today I want to give you a context. Most times if we are not following this case day by day and then episode by episode, it's difficult to actually, get everything that's been on. But the most important thing is that, we are very excited that, what we expected is what is happening now. That folks who can, boldly come out and lie against ordinary citizens simply because they have position of authority and power would definitely be put in the box and be asked questions on things that they've said earlier. Now, one thing we need to put into context is that, whatever these folks would be saying, or trying to cover up, it just takes us back to, what exactly was the primary purpose of killing the cops and who basically did that nasty job. Evidently and clearly, it is not Hussein Obojang. That's very much clear to everybody now. But who is it? And whom should we suspect? Now, 3 persons in government are subpoenaed to court. And at the initial stage, the defense counsel objected to subpoenaing these folks to court. But one would ask the question, why does the defense counsel think it's not good to bring these people to court after everything they said? One would question why the defense counsel felt like he needed to go and appeal this particular, subpoenaing these folks coming to court to another court. But fast forward, within a couple of days, he have withdrawn his, appeal. But again, one would ask the question, first, why did you even appeal? When these folks are only called to come and answer to questions pertaining to things they have said. Why did the government feel through its, DPP that was so wrong to bring these folks to court to ask them questions as per what they had told Gambians? What does the DPP want to hide? Why does the DPP want to conceal these folks? Even though they've concealed the gun, fabricated witnesses and brought all of them to court, the DPP cannot or could not prevent Sankare and co from coming to court. But what had happened? This case have gotten an international attention now simply because after all government said and everything they know now and everything that the world knows now, because they never thought that Usainu is just any other person that, people could come out to defend, because for them it's like we would just run and ride on this case quickly and put this dude behind bars as we wish. It's almost 2 years and the case is going to take 2 years because if you look at it, we probably would get judgment for this case towards the end of the year. We're almost in July. The courts might be going on a vacation and they only probably resume, a month or 2 later or whatsoever that might be happening, or probably somebody within will be away. So evidently, this case is going towards October, November, December. Now, but first, what exactly did happen? Why did the DPP change, his ways? Because came to court and said, we're withdrawing. And of course, the folks would come and testify. Did the folks come out and say, you cannot decide for us. We would decide for ourselves and we will come to court to actually, testify. Or did the government feel that concealing these folks and refusing to bring them to court puts more doubts on the government than any other person? And then felt that, okay, still go. Let's just maslaha with this and we try to do damage control, but they cannot control it. So all they could do is, we are not coming to court. The next minute, okay, we will come. Why is the government changing position within this short period of time? But when we go into the testimony of Sankare, One thing I want to make clear is that I don't allege people, and I have no reason to do so. Sankara never said Usainu Bojang was a rebel. That I can say, clearly. Sankara never said Usainu Bojang was a rebel. What Sankara did was to primarily put everything on the UDP. Now, the initial stage of this case was not about a rebellion. It was primarily to frame the United Democratic Party. But the initial information that came out were that Usainu Bojang is from Brufut, and that was considered to be somebody from Brufut Bojang Kunda. And for them, it's like, oh yeah, he's UDP. Secondly, he said he's one of those folks who were guarding Yankuba Dabo during the court case in Banjul. That means he's one of the security guards of Yankuba Dabo. Again, he said it's the guy in hoodie who was in that particular, court case and had the gun there. Sankara did not say Usainu had the gun in court. That was said by DIG So. But everything Sankara said was to actually taint the UDP. Now, it was until the person who wore the hoodie came out and said, I am the person in hoodie, that everything Sankara said was put to zero, was when the government changed position and said Usainu Bojang is a rebel from Casamance. So the rebel issue was only brought in after everything Sankara said was put to zero. That everything Sankara said was a lie, because the UDP came out to rebut every little thing that he said in trying to associate their political party to the incident. That Usainu Bojang was, in that UDP court case, and he was basically, an employee of Brikama Area Council, and he was taken to safety by his co-conspirators who actually drove him into the, thick forest of Casamance for safety. Now, anything that has to do with Casamance that Sankara mentioned is they drove him to the thick forest of Casamance for safety, but he never said he was a rebel. Everything he said was trying to connect him to the United Democratic Party, that he is an employee of Brikama Area Council. He's basically, one of those Yankuba Dabo security guard. He was at the UDP court case in Banjul simply because it was the UDP that was complaining about Pate Jallo, and the government killed another Pate Jallo, to frame the United Democratic Party. That script that Sankara read was everything to frame the United Democratic Party. Issues of the, being a rebel here and there only came, the aftermath of everything Sankara said came out to be lies, was when they reframed everything again and then put in issues of he's a rebel, he got the gun from the Casamance rebellion here and there. Those were not things that were initially said. Usainu Bojang was never called a rebel at the first press conference that that government did through Sankara. He was basically said to be that person who works for the United Democratic Party and was in the United Democratic Party court case in Banjul, and he works for Brikama Area Council and is a close ally of Yankuba Dabo, who, for one reason or another, he was basically, hired to kill, and part of the money he was paid was recovered. This is everything that Sankara said. But he never said that Usainu Bojang is a rebel. But come to think of it, smartly when Sankara was speaking, let's give him a benefit of the doubt for the moment. Whatever he was saying, he said allegedly, which was very right. Now, I don't blame him personally a lot, because everything that he said was said to him by the police command. Even though he deliberately refused to say in court today who exactly told him, by saying that I spoke to everybody in the police. That is not possible. That's a blatant lie, because Sankara cannot talk to everyone in the police force. We have thousands of people in the police force. You cannot tell us that he spoke to everybody. That is a lie. Sankara spoke to DIG So, and DIG So furnished him with all this fabricated script and all these lies, or probably they criminally connived to kill the cops and fabricate this particular script. In one way or another, he either knew something about it or he did not know, and he got every information from the police, and he went out with his verbosity to make it look like he knows everything about the case. But in short, what did happen in court today is that Sankara knew from a long time that a day like today would happen. And what he did smartly was to write that disclaimer, because when the police write, you don't see at the end of it where they write end. That is Sankara's style of writing. And when the police posted that, people noticed that the language, the diction, and the ending of that particular statement was not originally of the Gambia police force, but it came from Sankara, because that is how Sankara writes. So Sankara compelled the police force to actually write that everything Sankara said was said to him by the police force. And of course, it's the police force that said everything to Sankara that Sankara said. So for me, the point now is, why did the police lie about the killing of its own men? But it is the same police that stationed these boys at this particular location. And the police went back to kill these folks at the same location and came back to lie to the teeth against the United Democratic Party and gave all their lies to Sankare to go and narrate on a particular radio station and came back and say everything Sankare said we told him, when Sankare realized that everything he was told was a lie. And how do you know that Sankare knew that everything he was told was a lie? He said after that single, press briefing he did with Peter Gomez, or interview he did, he never spoke about the case ever again. And when asked why, he said he was in the United States for the UN General Assembly, and then he later, went on for a vacation and came back. Sankare, this case has been on for almost 2 years now. You spoke once about it. You want to tell me for 2 years you've not been in Gambia? He's been there. But he knew very well that DIG was lying to the people and had lied to him. And he went out to lie to the Gambian people. And then he tried to excuse himself from the case and never to say anything about it, because he knew a day like today was going to come. That yeta fo futa sanji tan lulu nim fen wala tan tanita woro nim fe kire samba kide mo le kal qur'anu dile ko e kal yafo ko nko moro yanyi mimbe fo den tonyante mun e bula fola malobe modol do be falal bi foro buka kun aronde malobe ko kun foroldo. But evidently, what do we want to clear here? That Usain Bojang has nothing to do with the case. When Sangare was asked, I don't remember. But evidently he did not say that. Maybe he did not even, because he will not remember. When you're lying, you don't remember. But when asked, you said, oh, he got co-conspirators here and there. I said, oh, I might have said something like that. But when he's asked key questions about it, he said, I said it, but I used the word allegedly. Now, Sankare, if you knew that everything you said was true, you will not still be claiming or hiding yourself on the word allegedly, sealing yourself with the word allegedly. But of course, that was what he said at the time. But evidently, he knew that Usain Bojang did not kill the cops, and now he's about protecting himself. That whatever I said about this young man, I said allegedly. But if the government had proofs that Usain Bojang did kill the cop, Sankare will be very happy to come to court and say, yes, he did it, and here are the evidence. But what I do not understand is Sankare said at the time that he was saying that, he said it on the basis of what was provided to him and the evidence. That was a very simple thing, to have a follow-up question by the defense counsel. Where are the evidence that you relied on to go to West Coast Radio to say that? Because you told us, he said in court that, of course, it was because of the evidence and the information provided to him. That was why he said what he said. Now, we can say that every information provided to him was given to him by the police. Where is the evidence that actually, led him to say what he said? Fania can sing. Fania can sing. Fania can sing. And what I do not understand is, why is Sankare so afraid to tell the Gambian people who exactly told him what he said? And he said, oh, it's the police department. The police department. Now, the police does not have a command responsibility as per when and where such things happen. Who communicates to government authorities? Of course, we know they do. It's not any riffraff that speaks on behalf of the police. It's not any person who would jump and call Sankare about a matter that has to do with killing of the cops in a government system. Police have a hierarchy and a command that is responsible for communicating State House and, of course, officials. Why is Sankare so afraid to tell that DIG so told me everything that I said? Is that another style of cover-up? Had they first said, oh, no, we are not going to come to court, so that they can have that 1 week interval to go and reconvene and see how they would come to court and lie again? But, of course, you cannot lie when your own videos and audios are going to be played in court. But the good thing is that most of the things Sankare said, he used the word allegedly, that we would give him. And he never said Usain Bojang was a rebel, because the initial conception of this whole idea was never about a rebellion. It was about framing the UDP. And Sankare, everything he did was to associate Usain Bojang to Brikama Area Council, Yankuba Dabo, and the United Democratic Party. But again, it was the United Democratic Party that was talking about Pate Jallow. And then killing a Pate Jallow was not a coincidence. But the whole point is, why did the police give Sankare that entire script and then call it a preliminary investigation? And he's now telling us that it's the preliminary investigation that actually revealed some of those. But everything that you said was a preliminary investigation was a blatant lie. And to come to court to say after that I never said anything is already guilt. to show that ndalanga for the baraka bring over mamfem for koden kado ngala no ko emimbe for nyafanyala kan ni fanyante when you said it and then you were asking God, he said when I was saying it I used the word allegedly. I did not say he did it, I said allegedly. So that means Sankara is convinced that Usain Bojang did not kill the cops. Sankara is no longer saying Usain Bojang killed the cops. Sankara is now busy protecting his image and himself. So who killed the cops? Why the framing of Usain Bojang and the United Democratic Party in the initial stage of it? Why a quick twist and turn into he is a rebel and of course acquired the gun from the Casamas rebellion? You know what is going to happen? When Abu Jeng comes, he will also say that everything I said was basically information provided to us by the police and the investigators. The main ball of contention here lies on DIG's soul. Oga Code will bring his code, Alpha Bravo. He will tell us where he got the Alpha Bravo. He was the one with the command responsibility at that material time. Even though we know the IGP, former IGP, knew everything about the killing of the cops and pretentiously traveled to China so that it can happen in his absence. And then DIG, so very notorious and known for lies, came out to actually give those propaganda lies to Gambian people, and now he's going to come to court and be asked questions about the lies he told this country. Now DIG so will be put in the box and be asked, dude, Italoko, you use codes from one point to another, and then, if you look at those coordinates, it's Dimbaya, C4 here and there, until an unknown person was handed over to you in Casamas. Where are your codes? Provide them to the courts. I heard he was in the library today. So he was in the library to probably practice his computer science and coding, skills, and of course GIS technologies. That there was heavy telephone traffic in Usain Bojang's phone. DIG so will have to explain that, and you have to provide evidential support to all of those claims. Sankara is not my whole point, because Sankara said that everything he said was, given to him by the police, and the police came out to say that everything Sankara said, we told him. Now that we know that everything Sankara said was a lie, and then the police came out to say that all those lies are said to him by us, and even though it is our people who were killed, it is us that went out to lie to government and of course lie to the Gambian people, then the police must be held accountable for the killing of the cops. And of course, in particular, the former IGP and of course the deputy IGP. That will not excuse Ibu Sow and that other commissioner, Sow, who is actually, head of anti-crime. Atol de kanala. Batariya sa me nyaaw nyaato nyaala bella banna. Kuja mala tambiran do labanko kang, mo le kool sifal beke ja atol mo nyaamen ke ja atol mo faraman sa fenke soto atol mo baraka soto atol mo ke wodinti mi alon kalbe wuli ala mol kang alko ya atol filije wonyam batol lon jumat. So the fact of the matter is that Commissioner Sow, DIG Sow, Ibu Sow, former IGP Sanyang, all of these folks are criminally liable in one way or another because they knew something about the killing of the cops. Now that DIG is going to be put in a box in the court and be asked, dude, you said this and that and that. You said, an unknown person was handed over to you in Dimbaya, heavy telephone traffic, prove it. Code from one point to another. Do you know that the codes that DIG so was talking about, that they were tracking Usain Bojang's phone, that phone was actually revealed in court that it was dead flat, no charge at all, and was left in Bruford, and the SIM card in the phone was removed and put in a simple phone, and Usain traveled with that simple phone. So which phone was DIG so actually tracking? Which phone was the Gambia Police Force tracking? So for Sankara, I'm not really much bothered, because everything he had to say in court today and starting to forget, I forgot, I don't remember, it's like TRRC. At the end of the day, when you start asking them questions, all they tell you is, I don't remember, I don't remember, I don't remember. You will not remember because you cannot remember your own lies, or in a way or another, you don't even know what you have told the Gambian people. So we don't intend to stay here long, because the whole point in this case now lies on DIG So. Because the two, Sankara and Abu Jeng, will now say that everything that we said was said to us by the police. And then the police, by whom? That is who, Sankara is refusing to reveal. Sankare deliberately and blatantly refused to tell the courts who told him the information that he shared. And all he said was to again come to court under oath and lie that he spoke to everyone in the police. How can Sankare speak to everybody in the police? Does the police not have a command responsibility? The police are trained. These are professionals, well disciplined, that nobody just jump and start opening your mouth. No, they are not all DIG so. They respect command and they respect responsibility. So DIG so must come to court and take full responsibility that he is the one who told everything that Sankare was telling. Because he came back. Now, how would you know that it was DIG so that told Sankare everything that he said? When he said that person was in a hoodie and at the UDP court case, UDP came out and showed the person who was in hoodie. Days later was when the police came out with their press conference. And during that press conference, you know, DIG so tried to maintain that stance that Sankare said earlier. Yes, it is true. He confessed to us that he was in that press conference, you know, in that court case in Banjul, and he was there with the gun, and he was the guy in hoodie. So that means if Sankare had said that earlier, and UDP refuted it, and DIG so came to kind of strengthen that, then it was DIG so that told Sankare everything about that. And there was no other person who could brief government and the government spokesperson at the time who other than DIG so. And we knew from intel that DIG so when this case happened and they got Usain Bojang, every day he was staying his entire day at the anti-crime unit. So DIG so you were not at the police headquarters when these events happened. You were at the investigation. You were not an investigator, but you were sitting at anti-crime the whole day, because you knew everything about the killing of the cops, because in one way or another you are one of the architects and the masterminds of killing these young boys. And I think the police now understand that some of us were not talking out of nothing. Not that we are talking in defense of Usain. I know Usain Bojang and I also know Sanjay. So why would I say if Usain really killed Sang to come and say I'm defending Usain against Sang? These are folks that I know. So there is no reason whatsoever to defend somebody who probably did kill another person, both of whom you know, for out of nothing. But the fact of the matter is that the government of the Gambia, under the leadership of Adama Barrow, killed the cops to frame the United Democratic Party with the sole intention to ban the United Democratic Party. And now that it backfired, they are now on a, you know, self-serving or self-saving mission. Because everything you said about Usain, now today you come out, allegedly. That is already guilt and confession to the fact that if Sankare, you know, this soul guy, I don't think DIG so and that, you know, Abu Jeng or Abu Bakar Jeng, if everything they had said was true, they will be the ones to come to court and present their evidences in court. If everything that DIG so talked about, codes, using codes here and there, but I think you know what I'm coming to say, you might not understand it. I apologize, you know, in advance here and there. You can have funny understand it. What GIS technology do you know that people don't know? What coding methods do you know that people don't know? These are, you know, military operations, so they are only used by, you know, militaries and police here and there. Do you have military experience? What do you know about codes? Left right center uniform mode yake police odi yefanke ko itamu nana ma joldi itamu mobile fa wara mola meti ila fa waro yat ne dar yefan do wulia ba fola molia Gambia bankoka. And now you are going to be put to court. And you know, the fact of the matter is that Usainu is just like an age mate of, you know, DIG So's son. Some of your children we know and we see and work in institutions that belong to some of our close family members. But we will not go to those people because they did us no wrong. But now that they don't what you funny as if I you know, out of nothing, out of wickedness and greed. Sometimes we get so agitated and we don't want to get to that level. But the fact of the matter is that these people inflict pain on people out of nothing. And that is why this government got to get its fucking self out of the Gambia, man. Because Tilimbalia man tambi, mola molfa, Tilimbalia kone, yamurun kone, yewulia la dolo kan kone, the whole nation need to sit down and relax and watch you do and incarcerate that young man on your false allegations and pretentious lives of killing innocent people, and of course jail a lactating mother and his brother for nothing they knew about, and go out there, get witnesses to frame those folks. alman malo alman sila wala tol ka alman narala pour ka gambiano le mako yadol man dan gambiano le mako la fokan tol tora ka wuli ala wan dingol kan ko sorom fa sanji fula alman bal dingol ala na lo code ka foko ha ba ka birinda ka fa I said allegedly. What level of shamelessness is that? What level of shamelessness and heartlessness is that? But if somebody had done that to your children, would you be pleased with it? And when you look around, you see the likes of that other Pate Jallo whom UDP was complaining about, claiming to other people that, yeah, but the boy confessed to killing. Oh yeah. I don't have any whatsoever. I don't have anything towards that Pate Jallo, because that Pate Jallo's brother was a murderer, notorious murderer under the Jammeh regime, who later turned out to be murdered by the same people. You know, sometimes you got to feel sorry for some of those folks. No. You are from a family of murderers. You want to tell people that, oh, you say Noboja and kill the cops? Where did you base that? I'm going to learn aganan for him and then a policy. Don't learn my dara. Whatever you people can do it. And when we talk about policy, we're not talking about the entire police force. We are talking about these folks at the helm of affairs. This criminal gang of bandits that you have at the helm of affairs at the Gambia police force. For one reason or another, these idiots got to rot in jail, because that is where they belong. Because people who should be serving our nation and protecting our citizens are the people who are criminally conniving to kill our citizens and frame other people just to satisfy the political desires of the NPP. And Adama Barrow, to be specific. Because it was Barrow who clearly told us that, of course, UDP is my main headache. And for you, you thought that, of course, this is a way to get UDP out by killing young people. But few questions that, you know, DIG so need to be asked. And I hope the Defense Council put this into context. Now, these three people they position at this place are just newly, you know, passed out recruits. Why do you have 3 recruits in this particular position? When did you post these 3 recruits in this particular position? Where were these recruits prior to being posted in this particular position? What was the necessity of posting these 3 recruits in this position? Why a Pate Jallo? Why did your preconceived, and of course you said your preliminary report came out to say that, you know, this was masterminded by somebody within the inner circle of Yankuba Dabo, because it was the UDP that was complaining about a Pate Jallo? Why was a Pate Jallo killed? Where was Pate Jallo prior to being before his postings at this particular location? We need to know, because then that will connect the dots to tell you the criminal gang and how they framed this dude and brought him to this particular position and killed him just to actually frame the UDP. Because we need to know where Pate was before, when Pate was brought to this particular location, why Pate was brought to this particular location, why in that particular formation that is just 3 recruits that they put in this particular location, and how long have they been in this particular location, and why were they killed? Because we know that there was a push and pull within the inner circle of the IGP about posting this particular, you know, people in this location. Go, because our nyame otala daraju otala fahamuro otala dunia long otala. You are just ordinary bandits who do not even know how to play criminality. But this case will expose all of you, and the whole world will look at you as real bandits and criminals and murderers within a government system. Every police officer can come here and testify that, yes, I did not talk to Sankare. Bawa ako police will be lafai. I think it's high time that the police force actually hold its leadership accountable. Go. Even though you have ethics and codes of conduct here and there, that does not include killing serving police officers, and you know this is masterminded by our own people and our own leadership that is there to protect us. And of course, protect the entire citizenry of this country. Killed our own men, framed other people just to satisfy the political desires of the president. And we know how DIG so actually got his, new contract, which he did not even deserve, even though it's coming to an end. that even the IGP did not know how DIG Sow got his, contract. The contract came directly from Office of the President because DIG Sow was constantly frequenting Office of the President, and he thought they could kill the cops to actually, please the Office of the President in trying to ban the United Democratic Party. After failing in that, that is why everything Sankara said was nothing to do with the rebellion. He was focused primarily on framing the United Democratic Party. When everything about that turns out to be lies and fabrications, they then turn around and say the dude is a rebel. He's from Casamas, or he got the gun from Casamas rebellion. Bare nyene la fin na fengo momenti nun ko kumfata atunde kumasidla adatidla wala nyente ko ngabela UDP kan. So this was a prefabricated script prior to the incident. It was planned and masterminded within government to ensure that they execute this in a master plan fashion so that they can frame the United Democratic Party, because it was within that period that Sabali and other people were saying we are going to revenge and it's going to be nasty. Now they use those words to actually kill the cops so that they can use those words against the UDP and its personnel, whom they felt at the time were big threats to their government, so that they can incarcerate them and of course ban the United Democratic Party. They failed in that quest and of course turn around and say, you know what, Usain Gojab. Mama Jabi is all over talking about NPP, trying to say, that she is the staunch supporter or staunch supporter of the president, and adunta jabora jana karaka UDP mola kajafa ala fo musu niwe gongo to nyani wo mantama jang be nyo jibelal tilbula ba mimbe ke like way mo buka fasi nyafala mo buka balusi nyafala ima sakunda tilimbalo ima sakunda kurma nyimo falal. What is the point? Why should somebody keep a government as disgusting as this one in the Gambia? And people talk, say, oh, you're too angry. Of course, we got to be angry, because if you are put in jail for almost 2 years, imagine the amount of mental torture and trauma you have inflicted on this family, who knew nothing about your politics and your evil deeds, who has no hand in one way or another in your killing of the cops, just to put them in jail for almost 2 years, a lactating mother with multiple children who are at home not knowing when their mother is going to come back, or probably she's never going to come back. How is society looking at this family? How is society even, looking at these people? How are the, Amis children going to school? What mental stress has you put? These are the kind of things that we do, that we generationally, kind of damage families for no good reason. That your wickedness, your evil doings would actually destroy an entire family and its lineage for no fucking reason. But look at it from that point. Look at the psychological trauma, the financial boarding that you put on this family. The social stressors that you put on this family. That at the end of the day, you can come back to court and say, oh, whatever I said allegedly. But when you were saying it, you did not put into perspective that these folks, at some point they got children. This is getting me stressed out, man.